This is Molly Stewart from Stowe, Ohio, and you're listening to BBQ Central.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
All right, good evening, and welcome to the really big BBQ Central Show.
Ooh, this is nice!
And this is the show that talks about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, a live fire fun and frivolity show. If you would like to get in contact with the show this evening, or you would like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do all that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you get the newsletter coming up in about 12 minutes from now. Exactly the guy that has spawned the craze going across the nation and globe with the BBQ Central's new theme song, BBQ Central Show's new theme song, Get in the Smoke. We will visit with first-time guest and obviously show superfan Heath Bennett. Hotly anticipated. Because I would have otherwise probably not ever have had Heath on the show. He would just remain in the shadows as a listener. We will get the benefit of learning about him, where he lives, how he got into barbecue, how he found the show, and then what inspires a human to go the extra lengths using AI technology and whatever else at his disposal to craft what has become the new high-level theme song of the BBQ Central Show. We'll learn all about it with Heath in just a few short moments. And then we will move to the 9:35 past the hour guest, second Tuesday. And that is Robert Moss, of course. We're going to talk about something that might blow your mind. It is involving, if you got the newsletter, pork ribs. Can you believe that there was a time in our history where pork ribs were roundly rebuffed, shit on, and or otherwise made fun of? I know, shocking to me. So much so that what he is about to relay to you in just about a half an hour or so might blow your mind. But we have come to know and expect this from one Robert Moss, educating us, making us much more knowledgeable and well-rounded barbecue and grilling fans and experts in our own right. If you learned something today, as they say in the Cigar Authority, you might have learned something today that makes you the Cigar Authority. Well, tonight you might learn something that will make you the Barbecue Authority. At least amongst your friends. They're not going to know anything about the story you will hear tonight. Then we'll close the first hour. We will move to the second hour. And in his quarterly appearance, although it's probably been 6 months since he's been on, creator of AmazingRibs.com and taker of the second hour, Meathead. Undoubtedly. So, lot to catch up with as it relates to a Meathead. In case you didn't know, Meathead has a new book out. Yeah, certainly there's the Alton Brown forward, but who cares about that? All the way down at the bottom, I can't see it. I wrote a blurb. Can you see that? Yeah, that's me right at the end. I made it. Right above semi-famous Dave Anderson. You kidding me? I'm not above that guy, the guy who ruined the Barbecue Hall of Fame one year. The announcements. Shocking. So that's how the show's laying out tonight. Heath Bennett and Robert Moss in the first hour and Meathead in the second hour. Of course, we say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show, or you can go to YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. You can also follow me socially on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, LinkedIn, all with the handle @BBQ Central Show. And yes, we do have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, including all guests. Simply and flatly on the heels of a Malcolm Reed New to You interview last Wednesday as it was released in the podcast feed, do you like Bloody Marys? And 67% of you are saying no. Thank God more than half of you are in your right minds. Because right now, 33% of you are in your wrong minds, even at its most basic drink formation, which is really how it should be. Maybe stalk of celery, maybe olives, and if you're feeling randy, how about bacon strip that is also in there? All great things to eat on their own. A crudité to eat together? Maybe. In that drink, the worst. The worst. Doctoring it up with horseradish does not help. Putting hot sauce in it does not help. Putting barbecue spices in it does not help. Putting Worcestershire sauce does not help. And the list goes on of things that don't help. Also things that don't help: full packer briskets, rotisserie chickens, racks of ribs, and you name all the nonsense that you've seen go on the side, above, behind, and below Bloody Marys. Trash with a capital T, and 67% of you are agreeing with me because every show last week was pre-recorded and put into the podcast feed. There is not.
We'll do it live.
Oh.
Andrew.
There is not results of the poll question from last week. There's just not. There's just not. So instead, we'll start here this evening, and many of you asking through the course of the week. So, what did you end up getting at the big corporate dinner because you couldn't make it back to host the show last Tuesday? Well, I did wait and go last to see what everybody else has ordered. Nobody decided to ask for my take on the menu, meat and or otherwise. Also, I was the lowest ranking official at the dinner. There were two owners. One that owns the company I work for. The other one owns the company I sell to. Then my boss, the VP of the truck group. And then it was me. Those three guys all got some form of steak. I opted for the rack of lamb. I'm going back to my hot take from a few years ago, which is this. And I am painting with broad strokes here, so forgive me. But there is a purposeful undercooking of meat across the nation. I ordered lamb medium rare, and it came out like it might have just released its last gasps of life minutes before it landed on the table in front of me. Told my boss after the fact, had it been even a degree cooler in temperature as detected by my mouth, I would have sent it back. Great flavor, but really, how in the fuck can you be off this much? You know what it looks like before you're cooking it. You know the temperature the cooker's running at. You can see how thick it is. You don't want to stick an instant read meat thermometer in that bad boy at any point just to check if you're accurate. And by the way, check for both things, underdone and overdone. We all know if it's overdone, it's got to go in the trash. You have to start over. Increased expense. I get it. If it's under, and it usually is, you put it back on the cooker. You get it up to temperature. By the way, an additional hot take, how many times have you seen something go back? More than once. Generally speaking, after it comes back from the kitchen the first time, customer's not sending it back another time. So the kitchen is safer sending it out underdone and then seeing if they have to do anything further with it. As I've said in the past, most people, while they don't like how their food comes out, won't actually send it back even once because they don't want to be looked at as rude. You want a real hot take? The cards are stacked against you when you eat out. How many times have you been dazzled in the past 10 years when dining out? Exactly. That many times. Heath Bennett is in the green room. We'll get to him here in just one moment. Before we get to him, we'll talk to you about Primo Grills because, as I've said time and time again, it is the summer of Primo for me at my house. I love the ceramic cooker. I love the fact that it gets hot. I love that it retains heat. I love that it is a fuel miser. I love that I can get multiple cooks out of a load of fuel. I'm using lump charcoal, but I will not shy away from a briquette if I need to, if it's an emergency, or if it's an extended overnight cook. What I love most about the Primo is we've gotten away from the round. We've gotten into the oval. So now I can really set up a 2-zone fire, which is what everybody wants to do. It's the best way to cook, the best way to manage a fire. We know all these things. But the Primo is the one you can really execute a 2-zone fire. Only sold through dealers, so please find one near you. Go to primogrill.com, find the dealer locator, then visit that dealer, wherever it is, touch and feel all the ovals, and then buy the one that best fits your needs. Don't forget to outfit yourself with an accessory. Use the Primo Grill pizza accessory this past weekend. Used something called the Fredstone. Lightweight, gets up to temperature quickly. I'm a big fan. Little learning curve for me on what temperature to run the Primo at in order to get the stone where I want it, in order to get the pizza results that I wanted. But the attachment itself, very easy. Pretty much like every accessory that Primo sells. Pretty easy. So great to use, so fun to use. Glad it's been the summer of Primo, and there's no stopping. Primogrill.com. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram. We're back with Heath Bennett right after this.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard, makers of Fireboard 2, Fireboard Pro, Fireboard Spark, Fireboard Beacon, the wireless Fireboard Pulse. When you use the Fireboard app, you have total access to all devices anywhere in the world. Visit fireboard.com for more information or call 816-945-2232 with questions. By the way, customer service is great because, not that you're going to know what this is, on the drive motor, there's two little thin metal pieces bent to shit. Got in touch with Ted. Ted gave me the support address. I have two new thin metal supports coming to support my Fireboard drive motor on my Primo grill here sooner than later, so very excited about that. It's the great folks over at Fireboard. All right, folks, so a couple weeks ago, you heard it here live on the show,
We'll do it live.
Which was the unveiling of what I have now called to be the official high-level theme song of the BBQ Central Show. I was inspired so much, I talked about it publicly on this show, and I basically covertly demanded that the creator at least avail himself for an interview so we could learn all about it. And to my great joy, he was only more than happy to do so. So let's race to the hotline and meet this character. We call him Heath Bennett. Hey, Heath.
Hi, Greg. How you doing tonight?
I am well. We have a YouTube poll question of the week just for you and all other guests and everybody watching on YouTube. Do you like Bloody Marys?
I do not.
No. 58% of the YouTube voting public, including you and me, do not like Bloody Marys, but our pal Malcolm Reed seems to love Bloody Marys and starting to claw back to a bit of 50-50, which I really like. So let's go ahead and get a few housekeeping items out of the way here before we really get into the most important part of the interview section, which is how this whole thing happened. You've never been on the show before. I don't know you to be a competitive barbecuer or a restaurant owner or anything like that. I don't know anything about you. So for the folks that show up for the first time, let's hit the high-level stuff. Where are you at? What do you do? And how are you a barbecue fan?
Oh, I'm definitely a huge barbecue fan. I live in Rochester, New Hampshire. Um, I just delivered pizza for a living. Um, Other than that, that's about it. I love barbecue. Watch all the shows, listen to the podcasts. That's my background.
Would you call yourself a outdoor grill lover? Are you a master, pit master? How do you gauge your wherewithal?
I'm definitely I do well at it. I wouldn't call myself a master. There's definitely lots of pieces of equipment I haven't cooked on. That's for sure. I just basically have a drum smoker and an Oklahoma Joe offset that I use.
Is it a UDS that you built, or do you have like a pit barrel or a gateway or something like that?
I built one myself. Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah. How old is that?
Actually, I just built it this summer, and it's the best thing I ever did. That thing cooks like a dream.
So I don't know if you recall this or not, but Texas embedded correspondent Doug Scheiding, I believe, got into the whole ugly drum building craze, a decade ago, maybe even longer than that. And that's how originally he got started. I might be a little off base on that, but I know there was some kind of a manufacturing of UDS for his personal use, maybe even cresting into the beginnings of his competition career, if I'm not mistaken. What drew you to the upright barrel smoker versus, something else?
Actually, years ago when I first saw the Pitmasters on TV, I got into the Barbecue Brethren forum and had read all about the ugly drum smoker in there, and I bought 2 drums, had bought everything to build it, and then it just ended up sitting in my mother-in-law's basement for probably about 10 years. And my wife said, "Are you going to finally do anything with that?" And I went down and checked them out, see if they were rusted, and they looked good. So I finally took them out and built them, and best thing I ever did.
So are you a lump charcoal guy in UDS, or are you a briquette guy, or a mix?
I'm actually briquette. I find I get much better control out of it than I do with lump. Lumps seem to flare up for me. They don't burn evenly enough.
How did you, are you partial to a brand of charcoal?
I usually either go with B&B, the competition, or I'll go with Blues Hog.
How did you find the BBQ Central Show?
Actually, I started by listening to Malcolm's podcast, and he mentioned you quite a bit on there. And when I heard about you and you gave him tips on how to get his sound going, I decided to give you a try, and I've been listening to you ever since.
How much time do you got into the show at this point?
I want to say I got in roughly right at the end of your T-shirt giveaway that you did a little while back.
So you got a little
I actually
time
just
in.
missed out. I was yeah, not bad.
So this was the most recent one where I was taking orders and then putting in the order after that?
Exactly.
And sending them.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So this was, what was that, a year ago or something like that? A year and a
A
half?
little over a
like that?
year ago. Yeah. Yep.
So I'm sorry that you missed that. That's too bad. I'm never doing it again. So, the chances of you getting a shirt. Are you barbecue medium, or like what's your size?
Oh, I'm a little bigger than barbecue medium. I'm getting down to barbecue medium, but I'm a little above that.
So we agree that barbecue medium is 3XL?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Just making sure we all know what
I'm
our
like a
mediums
4XL
are
right now.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we're getting there. So
I like my clothes baggy.
So what other, aside from Malcolm, you listen to all the other barbecue podcasts? And if so, which ones do you find most useful?
I was doing the barbecue radio network for a while, but a couple of the guys left the show, and not really a big fan of the format anymore since they're gone. But other than that, it's you guys. This one, lots of great information on what's going on around barbecue scene, and Malcolm's is great for recipes. So between the two, I get everything covered.
Any idea what happened to the barbecue radio network?
I don't know.
Because Andy and Todd, they were a long time. Well, I think Andy was the originator of that show, and then Todd kind of swooped in and took over for a while, and then all of a sudden it's this other guy.
Yeah, Andy was gone for the whole summer, and Todd was doing it, and then he said something about his health. I'm not sure, and said that he needed to step back, and then they just stopped having episodes, and the new guy came in.
Not a fan.
No. He's telling people that thermometers are the key to barbecue. It's the Bible. You got to follow what your thermometer says, which we all know you don't do that.
We don't
Use it
follow
as a probe, if
thermometers?
anything. Not really. I mean, it's somewhat of a guide, but you want things to be probe tender most of the time.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's talk about the official theme song of the BBQ Central Show.
Sure.
Walk us through the process of creating the theme song using AI.
All right. Basically started with Chat GPT. You got to kind of what they call training it, and what that is I use project folders, and in the project folders there's instructions, and you can set up like almost a prompt to tell it how to think and whatnot. And I first started out telling it, you need to think like a researcher, do deep research and all that. And then I had it prompt to do research on you, like the past 18 months or all the way back to your career, actually, I should say. And it gave
So
me
you're
all
like,
kinds of...
pretend you're a fact finder, go back
Exactly.
through the last 18 years on Greg Rempe and find out all you can?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Wow.
And then I probably got about 5 or 6 pages of stuff. I went through that, found lyrics that I wanted, generated some that I wanted on my own just from listening to the show that I knew. And then I went in, created another project folder with new instructions telling it to, act like a music writer. You're the best music writer. You have all kinds of awards. You're a music producer as well. And then I went and asked it to generate a song based off of the information that I gave you. It gave me lyrics. Some of them I ended up changing around. Some of them I kept. And then I went into Suno and I put those lyrics into there. And then
Let
you
me
can type
stop
in
you here just for a second. So
Sure.
you've transitioned platforms here. I don't know if everybody's on the same page.
Yes.
So you
Suno
were
to
originally
.com is
working on ChatGPT. You got to this particular point, and now you're transitioning into another level of AI.
Correct. This Suno is used for generating songs, music, stuff like that. So I put the lyrics for the song into there. And there's also a different section where you can put in your style. So I did 80s hair band, the kind of instrumentation that you want in there, and asked it to generate the song from there. Sometimes you get good results. Other times, like songs are cut off at the end, or the words don't come out right. Or for the instance, the first time I did yours, your name came out as Rempa. So I had to go in and change that so that, I had to do like IE so that it actually, did the Rempe in there. You can go into the song once you find like a bass that you like, because I had to do like 5 or 6 generations just to get a bass song that sounded good to me. And then from there, you can go in and edit it. You can add like solos in there, or you can extend the song even longer. Or if there's a specific section that doesn't sound good, you can totally regenerate that whole section of the song. And then from there, you can just export it and send it out.
So if I back you up to ChatGPT, once you get the lyrics to the song, and as you said, you're editing or you're adding your own. So are you saying, so you get the lyrics, then you say, okay, now incorporate whatever your lyrics are into the song, and it just kind of blends it in?
Yeah, I'll say, like, I don't like these lyrics that you put here. I think they're cheesy. What do you think about this? And I'll put in my lyrics. And then I've actually told it, all right, now think like a producer. Do you think this is a good quality song? Would you record this? And it'll be honest with me and be like, no, that sounds horrible. I would do this with it and whatnot. And then we kind of would go back and forth brainstorming to try to get, the best lyrics we could.
And then you take that over to the musical part and add the music part. So how long does it take you to get just the lyrics set to where you like before you head over to Suno?
It probably took me about a full day.
Wow.
To get it situated.
And then how long does the musicality portion take?
Yours took about a full day. Other songs that I've worked on, I have one that I've been working on for about a week now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep.
that for Johnny Mag's podcast?
No, I'm actually trying to make a barbecue themed album. I got a whole bunch of different like barbecue theme songs that I'm trying to do to make them not seem cheesy. Like I've got a Pulled Apart. It's kind of like a through the eyes of pulled pork, but it's like a love song kind of thing.
Oh, really?
Sounds pretty decent. Yeah. Yep.
So I'm listening to you prompt ChatGPT and Suno and all this other stuff. Do you play an instrument? Have you been in bands? Are you like in music production, stuff like this?
No, not at all. I've dabbled in a few instruments growing up. I played the trumpet for a couple years, played the guitar for a couple years, harmonica, blues harmonica. I play a little bit, but none of them I'm very good at. Nothing that would be recordable.
So you're just a fan of using AI and
Yeah,
you're able to
I
produce
started
these
out.
songs.
Yeah, I started out generating images, a lot of stuff for Malcolm's Facebook group. I did a few images based off of his podcast, and then I really started hearing about Suno, and that sparked an idea. I generated a song for him. It didn't come out nearly as good as this one did. It was the first song I had done, and I posted that in their group, and then I did a couple others, and yours was probably about the fifth song that I tried.
It's the best song too, I would imagine.
It so far, yes.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's so great. I listen to it at least once a day to pump my ego up.
Nice.
Are you using AI just in general? Or would you rate yourself an expert at AI? So, as I have learned more and more about it over the years, so there's obviously evolutions. You know, it's Chat GPT, this one, version 2, version 3, version 4. I think we're at 5 now, whatever the hell it is.
Yep.
Then there's free versions. Then there's pay versions. I assume Suno is something similar where you can do so much for free, and then if you want a limited access, you're going to pay a monthly or a yearly subscription charge, and away you go.
Yep.
So what I come to understand is what separates really good AI users and shitheads like me is the inability or ability to prompt really, really well. So A, is that true? And
yes.
then how do you become really good at prompting?
The key is definitely in the prompts. And one of the biggest things you can do is just ask ChatGPT yourself. Say, create a prompt for me that will create a song based on these lyrics. And then it will create a prompt saying, use these lyrics, and all the specificities that you want, and it will generate it. I ask it to generate the instructions for the projects folders as well. And they get really specific and break it all down better than I could ever think of.
So you're uploading these project folders into ChatGPT, and then it's breaking those project folders down?
The project folder is something that's actually built into ChatGPT. It's something they have in each one of their chat windows, so that it can kind of keep the base instructions on what you want done in just that folder. So like I have one for creating images, one for creating songs, one just for creating prompts. And then I'll go in there for the prompts, I'll create the ones for songs, or if I want to create an image, I'll have it create that.
Would it be the same as from computer language? So I'm a Windows guy. Hit my little folder thing down on the taskbar that brings up a bunch of different folders. So I put in a new folder, and then I can put stuff in that folder, and you can keep it separate folders on ChatGPT. I really sound like a dope here, and I apologize, but now I'm motivated to learn.
No, not at all. In those projects folders, you can keep files in there, but the chat windows can't access the files. It's just for you to keep organized what you've done, files that you have uploaded to it, like for programming or something like that. Sometimes you have quite a few different files, and you would keep that in the actual file section, and then in the instruction section, that's where you would have them generate your prompt, and that's just something that you copy and paste from the chat window and paste right into the instruction folder, I guess you would say.
Well, it all sounds incredibly involved and difficult, but I mean, it always does when you don't know what you're doing. So you obviously have it down to a science, and you're turning out what could be top 40 hits back in the mid 80s at this point with that sound. Did you have it try to sound like a particular band or two, or just a hair band genre?
Yeah, I definitely threw some 80s. Whether it actually sounded like those specific guys, I don't know. Like I threw Whitesnake, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, all those guys in there. I said, try to make it sound like them. With Suno, though, you can't actually put names in there because that will screw up copyright issues.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to. For a while, I got away with doing in the style of, but you can't even word that in the prompts now. So you just have to specifically kind of have ChatGPT create a style prompt based off of those guys or those bands.
Well, it's been great hearing it. I've sent it out probably over 100 times at this point, so there's a lot of other people out there that find some value in playing it either in their earbuds, or I rock it out with the car windows all the way down while I'm rolling down the sub street of Willoughby, Ohio here. So appreciate everything that you have done in that regard and given us this gift of the BBQ Central Show's theme song. I've nicknamed it "Get in the Smoke." Is that the title, or does it have a title?
Get in the Smoke. Yes, that's the title. Yep, perfect.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Any historical figure. That's a good question. Probably a musician of some sort, like Stevie Ray Vaughan. I love his music. He's probably one of the most listened to that I listen to. I listen to him all night when I'm driving in the car, if I'm not listening to a podcast, or if I'm in my room doing some sort of work. But yeah, I love Stevie Ray Vaughan.
What's your favorite Stevie Ray Vaughan song?
I like Lenny. I like the instrumental to it.
You like Texas Flood?
Yeah, that's a good one too.
There
isn't many that I don't like.
I love it. One of my favorite ones. All right, we're talking with Heath Bennett. He is the creator of Get in the Smoke, and that is what I'm calling to be the new theme song of the BBQ Central Show. Heath, really appreciate the time and definitely the insight. I think we've all become a little bit more of learned folk here as it relates to AI. And again, appreciate the song. Thanks so much for being a fan, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you very much for having me on.
You got it. Heath Bennett right there. Made the song Get in the Smoke with the help of ChatGPT, initially transitioning to something called Suno, which I don't know anything about. And then basically, let's call it 48 hours of work. When you say 2 days, doesn't necessarily sound like that crazy, but let's break it down to hours. 48 hours of work to get that song. I've heard interviews with like Green Day, some of the most successful bands ever. It's taken 5 minutes to write the song. They knock it out a couple hours later in the studio, dead bang. They got a top 40 hit. So this one, more involved than a lot of hit songs that were made by real bands. So appreciate Heath putting in all the time and effort on that. Get in the Smoke if you need your copy. So you can go back to the show a couple weeks ago and just, it lives on that show. Number one. Number two, email me, Greg, at thebbqcentralshow.com. And in the subject line, put Get in the Smoke song. And then I will send you the new theme song. Very easy. You'll be shocked if you haven't heard how great it is. Not kidding. It's great. Chris in the instant chat, wondering if anybody smokes a cigar while they're watching the show. He's currently smoking an Oliva Nub Double Roast. Chris, I've had nubs before. Fan. More of a McAuliffe guy, if you haven't known that. Usually Jeff and Drizzy has got something lit up as well. He's a big premium cigar guy. Usually something really expensive, though. All right, Robert Moss is in the green room. We'll get to him here in just 1 second. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the BBQ Central Show.
And we thank Heath Bennett for joining us last segment. My next guest, contributing barbecue editor for Southern Living Magazine, 2023 BBQ Central Show's guest Hall of Famer. Can you believe we're coming up on 2 years in 2 weeks when we put in the class of 2025? We will welcome back our friend who I think we missed last month, Robert Moss. There he is. Hey, Robert.
Hey, Greg. How's it going?
Fabulous. We have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, including all guests. Do you like Bloody Marys?
I cannot stand Bloody Marys. Absolutely no.
57% of people agree with you and me and Heath Bennett. We detest a Bloody Mary. There is no such thing as a good Bloody Mary, only one that is getting pitched down the drain of the nearest sink.
Amen.
And probably the sink is pissed that it is ingesting a Bloody Mary with no ability to reject it. Tonight we're covering a topic, and when I say the protein, people are going to flip out when we actually unearth the atrocities that this meat has had to go through in its lifetime. I am talking about pork ribs. Now, on its face, who doesn't love pork ribs? Probably widely considered to be one of, if not the most popular barbecue protein.
It's the iconic barbecue meat. I mean, absolutely.
Unless you're in Central Texas. But even there in Central Texas, they are known for pork spare ribs. I don't know.
Yeah, it's part of the Texas Trinity. You know, it is every single region these days seems to have ribs as part of its tradition, no matter what else it cooks. Everyone does ribs.
For as popular as they are present day, for as popular as ribs have been ever since I have been involved, even as the show was originally founded in podcast fashion, all the way back in 2006. And for even years before that, I was a rib lover. There were places like Damon's and other shit chain places that made ribs, were very successful. What is the history of pork rib?
Yeah, the ribs is actually, I don't think the history of ribs even made it into my the last edition of the barbecue book, because I really didn't dig into it until much later. But just because I sort of always assumed, ribs, that's just part of the barbecue tradition. It's got to be going way back. I discovered actually ribs are a relatively recent thing in terms of all of barbecue speaking, and it has a lot to do with a bunch of different things, but. If you go back over all our segments we've been doing on the history of barbecue and the side dishes, mechanical refrigeration and transportation has so much to do with the shaping of barbecue. And, we're calling back to the 19th century when barbecue was an outdoor tradition. But really ribs go back to before the Civil War, no one was going and buying ribs and cooking and eating them, whether it's barbecue or anything else. In fact, before there was refrigeration, pork, there's only a very short window of the year where you could eat fresh pork, because once you slaughtered a hog, how do you preserve it, right? You can't really have fresh pork available, most of the year round. So if you go all the way back to the hog killing days back in the early 19th century, you raising pigs. Typically, that would happen toward the end of November, early December, when the weather gets cold. That's when you have your hog killings, because you need a couple of good cold days. You wait for the good first frost to come, because you don't want that pork to go bad before you finish slaughtering and everything else. So you get all the hogs, you kill them. And of course, back then they used every single bit of the hog. So the first thing you do is you hang it up, let it sort of bleed out overnight after killing it. And then next day, cut it, start to butcher it down. The hams and the shoulders and the belly, which we call bacon today, would all go into the smokehouse, all the big cuts, to hang in the smokehouse and be preserved. And then that's what you would eat throughout the year. Then they make use of everything else. So the blood would go into blood pudding. You would take all the fat, put it into big vats and boil it down to lard. And then you could preserve the lard and have that throughout the year. And you only had a few things left over back then. You had the tenderloins, the backbone, and the chitlings, the intestines, and the ribs. And those had to be eaten at hog killing time while it was still cold and fresh. You had a couple days to eat all that up. And so they would have these big, dinners and everything, hog killing dinners, and ribs were part of that. So back then, ribs were a very special seasonal thing. You'd only have that. You couldn't go have ribs in May or in September. Where would you get them from? That you couldn't go down to the store or anything else. So that's sort of stage one. Fast forward to stage two, which is the rise of hog packing and the hog packing industry. Later, Chicago would become the capital of meat packing. But before the Civil War, it was Cincinnati. Cincinnati became the hog packing capital of the world. It was called Porkopolis, popularly. All the pigs and everything would get driven to Cincinnati, and it was still a seasonal thing. Even in the 1840s, you still have to wait till it gets cold enough. They do the hog killings. But what they would do, I think it was 1830s, the 4 largest hog packing plants in Cincinnati killed something like 2,500 hogs a day that they would butcher, slaughter, and then they would pack them up in barrels. So what would you do? Well, they would pack the hams and the shoulders into these big barrels. They would render the fat down to lard, put that in kegs. And then they could take like the jowls and the hocks and little pieces and stick it down between the shoulders and hams in these barrels, and then pour over it what they call a pickle, which is literally this brine, a salty, sugary brine that would basically preserve the pork in the barrel. Pork barrel politics and everything else all comes from this era. Seal up the barrels, put them on a boat, send them down the Mississippi River for market. And then that's how pork would be sold. You see pickled pork or preserved pork. It would go inland all over the place in the early days of the pork trade. Well, guess what did not fit so well into the barrels? The ribs. And, you're killing 2,500 hogs a day. There's only so many, things. So these ribs started piling up. So in Cincinnati in the 1840s, there are these great newspaper stories about the owners of boarding houses would take baskets down to the slaughterhouse and they would just fill them up with ribs for free. And so they could take them back and cook free rib dinners for their tenants and everything else. But even the boarding houses in Cincinnati wasn't enough to handle all that ribs. So there's these accounts from the 1840s of the slaughterhousing packing up cartfuls of ribs, hauling them down to the Ohio River and just dumping them off the banks into the river.
Oh, no.
To get rid of them.
Holy travesty.
The eve of the Civil War, they're dumping ribs in the river because they literally cannot give them away.
No wonder we went to war.
Yes. And then the Civil War came, which I could write an alternative history where the Civil War was actually fought over ribs, but I don't think that's technically accurate. But we'll see what we can do with that. Fast forward after the Civil War, development of mechanical refrigeration, ice, train shipments, everything else. Suddenly, you don't have to pickle your pork and put it on boats and travel it around. You could actually refrigerate it, put it on trains and everything else. You could actually start toward the latter part of the 19th century selling fresh pork year round. So you could slaughter it, put it in, cool it down and all that kind of stuff. So you start getting ribs available for sale elsewhere. And toward the end of the 19th century, you start seeing ribs show up in cookbooks and things like that. It's sort of like economical meat that you could get, just at the butcher shop or wherever else. And, people would start eating it. Now, if you've been listening to all the previous segments, that the early 20th century, when the rise of barbecue restaurants began, first this was informal stands and then restaurants, etc. Well, one of the big things that took off in the, right around the time of World War I were ribs. So cooking ribs at barbecue stands, you start to see these things show up. They were really cheap. You could get like a pound of ribs, cooked ribs for 30 cents or something like that. 1920s come along and you have barbecue stands. You got Prohibition. All of a sudden, you get all these rib stands throughout the Midwest, in particular, like everywhere where all the hog, like Iowa is huge for these, where guys would go. You could get a big old platter of ribs, you get a whole bunch of beer. During Prohibition days, there are all these great raids on the Prohibition stands. Babe Ruth became a huge fan of barbecue ribs in the 1920s. It's a great story. 1928 World Series in St. Louis, the Yankees sweep 4-0. Last game was in St. Louis. On the train on the ride back to New York, Babe Ruth brought on 50 pounds of ribs and what the newspapers described as an amber fluid that foamed when poured into glasses. So whatever that could have been, who knows? But apparently, Babe Ruth became a huge rib fan, and it sort of went toward his ever growing middle as he's got further along in his career. But the 20s, ease into the 30s. Ribs become big, but they really took off after. Well, actually, in the 30s, rib stands became rib joints. Became like Hollywood stars started ducking into these famous rib joints after World War II. Not only did ribs become just we had rib houses everywhere, became very popular meat. Backyard barbecuing is taking off. We talked about that. Ribs were a very popular cut, and guess what? The price of ribs in the 1940s, 1950s just starts going up and up and up. And it's been that way ever since. So it went from being like, this meat you couldn't give away in the space of a century, became one of the pricey meats on the market because everyone wanted to eat ribs, and it's been a barbecue staple ever since.
So it's just been demand driving price up ever since?
Yeah, ever since then. The St. Louis butchers in the 1940s came up with the St. Louis cut rib, which I sort of traced back. The first time I could find it, I think, was 1947, where they would take a spare, your normal slab of spare ribs, cut off the rib tips, and you have these really neatly trimmed ribs, which they could sell for even a higher per pound price because they were becoming very popular. And that's when rib tips became sort of a staple of St. Louis and Chicago and other places, because that became the cast off meat. And so the rib tips sort of followed behind the spare ribs. But yeah, all driven by demand and the popularity, and driven by barbecue and then the desire to have smoked, pit cooked ribs.
So rib tips are popular in St. Louis and Chicago because that's where a lot of packing was happening.
A lot of packing houses going on,
Right.
And same thing. There's some great interviews, like the South Side of Chicago has all these great rib joints, and there's some great interviews with the guys from the 60s, 70s. They would actually drive. I can't remember which one it was. It could have been Lim's, could have been Argybe's, but the owner would drive actually down to the packing houses down in Southern Illinois, because he could drive down there and just get boxes and boxes of rib tips for super cheap, because there's not much they could do with it. And he'd drive back up and sell them, cook them and sell them cheap. And it's just part of the staple of, you can find lots of different places, but particularly in Memphis, St. Louis, and in the South Side of Chicago, rib tips are still really, really huge.
In the early 1900s, as ribs have turned the corner from, getting dumped into the Ohio River, which is a shame. Is there a common way to cook these, or does region also play a part in that?
I don't know when it diverged. I know from like Memphis, I found some articles about John Mills, who was sort of a predecessor of Rendezvous. Was a great rib king right off of Beale Street in downtown Memphis. He cooked his hot over a charcoal fire. I think it's about an hour and 20 minutes of basting with a spicy sauce. And that's sort of the Memphis style rib today and the Alabama style ribs today. So somewhere along the line, you got this divergence. You've got sort of the Texas style rib done in the offset smoker. That's where you do it, 5-6 hours, wrap them midway. They're slow smoked and all that. But then you've got the hot and fast method, which is what, if you go to like Dreamland in Tuscaloosa or Archibald's in Northport, Alabama, or even the Rendezvous, they have these massive brick pits and they have raging charcoal fires or wood fires in the case of Alabama. And it's probably 2 feet above it, but they're cooking those things in sometimes less than an hour, sometimes 45 minutes, very hot and fast. A very, very different style of rib, and it's directly over the heat. So it's very different than the offset. So those ribs diverged at some point. Of course, you have the dry rub and the basted ribs that came along as well. But I think the big difference is, do you cook them hot and fast or low and slow?
So you've been to any number, if not all, the rib places across the country in your lifetime. You've had all the different styles of ribs. What's your favorite style?
My favorite style is what I would call, it's a newer, I don't know if it's new or a renovate or re-evolving style. 2 places that come to mind: City Limits in West Columbia, South Carolina, and Mama Jean's Barbecue in Roanoke, Virginia. I'm sure there's some other folks who are doing it. These are sort of new schooler, craft guys. They sort of got intrigued by the idea of the direct heat ribs. They're not doing them like Alabama, so they're not like doing quite hot as fast and crusty, but they're not doing on offset smokers. They're actually are taking basically, they're doing burn barrel style like you might for a whole hog, sprinkling coals underneath them. Elliot Moss actually at Elliot's Barbecue in Florence is doing similar ways, and then they're cooking their ribs over direct heat, and the flavor for them is just incredible. You sort of get this great texture, but you get this great smoky char on them. And so that's absolutely hands down my favorite way of cooking ribs. And it's a fairly new one. You don't see too many people doing that. I've got to say, I do have a fondness though for the Alabama and Memphis style sort of for hot and fast rib as well. Nothing wrong with the classic Texas offset style, neatly trimmed and all that kind of stuff, but they just don't have the flavor punch that you get from those direct heat ribs.
Is Rodney Scott a sprinkler of charcoal as well, like cooking them like he would his hogs, same pit and all that stuff, just filled with?
Well, what's funny is that there were no such thing as ribs. Ribs cooked separately at the old Scots in Hemingway, and because they were cooking whole hogs. And back in the old days, you could eat ribs, but you would just pull the rib meat right out of the hog. And actually at Rodney's, or at Scott's up at Hemingway, you could go actually get ribs off the hog, where they would actually cut them out of the whole hog and sell them to you. Excellent, which was excellent. When he opened his spot in Charleston, he may have even started doing this when he was still up at Hemingway. He started doing ribs additionally. I think he does do them on the direct heat pit. I'd have to go back and look. I'm pretty sure he does them similarly, but that's something he started doing pretty much later. Because ribs were not super common in Carolina barbecue joints up until past 10 or 15 years. Most places didn't have them. They're cooking pork shoulders, they're cooking chicken, but it was rare to see ribs. That was much more of a Memphis style kind of thing. That has come along later. But yeah, Rodney does them now. I think he does them on a direct heat pit, but that was something he sort of adapted, to meet the popular demand as opposed to something that they traditionally did at the old Scott's Hemingway.
You got a list coming out here pretty soon, don't you?
I do. I've got the top 50 list. It will come out before the next time I'm on the show. Not exactly sure, but sometime this month for Southern Living or our top 50 list. And literally the list is done. The ranking is the 50-year pick. The rankings are done, but I'm finishing up all the write-up part and trying to go through and explain why, try to justify the rankings for everything, about to ship that off this week. So it will come out sometime in the next week or two. You can watch robertfmoss.com or Robert F. Moss on Instagram. If you want to see that. And I think it's going to be a little interesting list this year, a little different than the past years.
How many states are you spanning with picks?
Well, you'll be happy to know it's a fewer number than in previous years. We made the difficult call to not include Missouri in the South. And
Wow.
Which I know seems radical. It's funny now, like when we first started doing it, why do you include Missouri? Well, because Kansas City and St. Louis have great barbecue traditions. And these aren't necessarily southern cities, but at the time we were doing it, where else would you go? That was about the edge of the barbecue world, and so we would sort of sneak them in there. But now, if you're going to do Kansas City, why not do Minneapolis, Minnesota, which has some great barbecue joints, or Arizona or Los Angeles? So we certainly had to draw a line. And so Missouri now, there's great barbecue now all over the United States. So we're going to focus just in the South. So that will be a little bit tighter geography. That does limit it down. Another change this year, most times I've done the list, there haven't been that many places that have closed and fallen off, but there's a good half dozen of places that were on previous top 50 lists, maybe not the last one, but certainly in the last couple, who have closed, just in the past year or two. So that's slimmed down the number as well. At the same time, there's a whole new crop of brand new places that have opened up in the last couple of years. And the other big phenomenon noticed doing it this year as I was traveling around and revisiting. There's so many places that have expanded their operation. You know, maybe opening bigger location, moving to a bigger location, or adding stuff to the menu, adding bars, or adding different things. So definitely expansion is a theme. So I've got places that were pretty good before, but then they've expanded what they're doing and they're even better. So I would look for this list. Some of the old favorites going to be on there, but the order is going to be shaken up a little bit. There's going to be a lot of new faces on there, and I think the top 10 may raise a few eyebrows.
All right. So we'll look forward to that. It will be released. We'll be able to talk about that when we are in October.
Yep.
Oh my God.
I think the October. Yeah. We should. It'll definitely be out by the October segment. Hopefully by then I'll taken all my beatings on social media and we'll have recovered my pride, and then we can come on and.
All right. We'll keep the best beatings. We'll keep the best beatings here for you.
Yeah, I'll have to come take the beating from you. So
that's right. No doubt. All right. Well, we look forward to that. As always, appreciate the great information, and we will see you in October.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
You got it. There he is, Robert Moss, robertfmoss.com. If you would like to keep track of the list and its release, you want to see who made that list. Of course you do. Everybody loves lists. I wanted to ask him, like, how much weight does his list throw around compared to the Texas Monthly? And again, TM is just in Texas. Of course, we know that. I could probably ask Daniel Vaughn that next week because he will be on the show, believe it or not. Confirmed as of today. All right, we will head back and close up the first hour. So stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Robert Moss, easily the smartest man on the show. I might nominate him for 2025 BBQ Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame and have him be the first one in twice. He's that good. I don't know if anybody knows barbecue history like Robert Moss. Certainly he has written books on the topic. He wrote a book, then he revised the book that he wrote with more history. It's history, not his story. If you know what I mean. Shout out to Public Enemy. Chuck D, what up? All right, we are pointing to the second hour. By the way, if you want to keep track of the Southern Living Top 50 release, robertfmoss.com, Robert's website, track there, or Robert F. Moss on the social media. As I was saying, we are pointing to the second hour. Go ahead and refresh your libations. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show right here on the BBQ Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This is Terry Howe from the Talkback Fans Podcast, and you're listening to the BBQ Central Show with the incomparable host, Greg Rempe.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 2 feet or wiener.
But listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. It is the BBQ Central Show. where we do talk about the most important things in the world of barbecue and grilling. If you missed the first hour, where were you? Rest easy. We are recording as we always do, unless we didn't do it live.
We'll do it live.
But we did do it live today, where we pre-record and just dump it into the podcast feed. But we did have a live show in the first hour. We're having a live show right now here in the second hour, all live. Welcome back. I don't know if I updated the Facebook portion of this, so don't get lost in the nonsense. This is a real show. It is live. It is September 9th, 2025, and we are at 22:01, 100 hours. This show coming to you from
Palm City, USA. Cleveland.
So to come on the show tonight, Meathead from AmazingRibs.com, and we say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of the video streaming platforms. You can go to Facebook.com/BBQ Central Show to watch, or you can watch on YouTube, which is YouTube.com/@BBQ Central Show. We have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, including all guests. Do you like Bloody Marys? And currently 60% of you are saying no, you do not like Bloody Marys. I am fully a part of the 60% that do not like Bloody Marys. No, sir. Every guest so far, not a fan of Bloody Marys. We'll get Meathead's take here in just a moment. Bill Rempe weighing in. Robert Moss gets my vote. What a great guest. I believe he's saying second time Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Fame inductee. I think we can really only keep you once. But, I mean, he might be one of my 5 nominees in 2 weeks' time when the embedded correspondents gather to put in a new class of Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Famers. So we'll see about that. But as we get back to the poll, 60% of you are saying no, you don't like Bloody Marys. I know my dad, Bill Rempe, in the 40%, and he puts horseradish in his. Gross. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this coming Friday, episode 399. So close to 400, taking you back to September 1st of 2009. Gang, we are just past this show that will be on this Friday 16 years ago. In fact, 16 years and 8 days to be exact, as we sit here on the 9th day. And by the time we get to Friday, that will be 10, 12. It'll be 16 years and 11 days from when this thing first happened on September 1st of 2009. This week, ironically, we are featuring me on the show, the best moments, and you know I love me some me. Yes, and the topic being discussed at the time, 16 years ago, was wood pellets. But what specifically about wood pellets were we talking about 16 years ago? We were specifically talking about Traeger wood pellets. But why were we specifically talking about Traeger wood pellets specifically? I'll give you a hint because I'm not going to blow it for you right here 2 days before it is released. And then your motivation to listen might be less. Let's just say this. Wood pellets come in a variety of different flavors. And at the time, Traeger had a patent on certain things that were doing certain things, imparting certain things to other certain things. I'm being very vague because I don't want to ruin it. But I question everything about a process, a product, and I wonder out loud, why so quiet? And this is under the first new ownership, not the current ownership. Chris in the chat room saying Robert Moss is definitely a treasure. If I could pick 5 people in barbecue to have dinner with, Robert F. Moss and Daniel Vaughn would be the first 2 on the list. I agree. By the way, Robert Moss, former Buckeye resident in Ohio. Worcester, I believe, was the hometown. He does go back and visit occasionally to Worcester, but I don't know if he originally grew up in Worcester. Maybe he went to Worcester College. I don't know. Who cares? Anthony Bourdain found him, and then he went to Texas. He became the first full-time Texas or first full-time barbecue editor ever anywhere in the country. And now you see them here and there. Probably not so much anymore because it's tough to make a buck. So please tune in to the BBQ Central Show, The Best Moments of, in 10 minutes or less this coming Friday, where you will hear me talk about wood pellets and then get more specific. You can subscribe to this show and that show by visiting this website, thebbqcentralshow.com/subscribe. Also, don't forget, if you want to hear a past guest or segment again, you feel has been lost in the archives, email John, Jon, John, Jon, and let him know what you would like to hear, Jon at thebbqcentralshow.com. Email from Anthony, who appears to be watching the show. Greg, got a little something to enjoy during the show tonight. Love the show. Regards, Anthony, and this is what he's referring to. Anthony, oh dear Lord. They make that still? Holy moly. I thought Cutwater had high ABVs, but the middle can of Four Loko watermelon, 12% alcohol. So you're looking at, for the economy beer, let's call it a Miller Lite, let's call it a Budweiser. They're 4%. So that middle one is like you're drinking 3 beers in one. And then, to the right, you have Sour Melon at 13.9% alcohol by volume. Holy moly, 13.9. And weren't these the drinks? So it's got the large amount of ABV, and didn't it also have, wasn't it an energy drink as well? And that's where a lot of the trouble was happening with the youths of the time that were downing these like crazy, getting drunk, but also staying hyped. And when you're staying hyped because your drunkenness isn't able to overcome and put you out, something really bad happens. It's called alcohol poisoning. You don't want that. Don't want it. Four Loko was having people black the F out. At best and at worst, people were dying because they couldn't stop drinking because their body couldn't pass out fast enough because they were also on something that was akin to Red Bull on steroids. So, Anthony, enjoy the Four Loko, and if you got Cutwater on deck, you might want to take one of those too. Or reserve that, get through me and Meathead's conversation coming up, and then celebrate making it through with an additional Four Loko. I might recommend the Sour Melon that I saw at 13.9, and then follow that up with the Long Island Iced Tea Cutwater, which is sitting in at about 13.5%. And then good night, I would imagine. Good night. But hey, you will have had a great evening that you can remember, right? Absolutely. Everybody told me I had a great time. I get it. All right, Meathead's in the green room. Lots to talk about with Meathead. Before we do that, let's give our pal Sterling Ball a shout out over at Big Pop Smokers. Whether you're chasing grand championships or aiming to impress your next backyard cookout, Big Pop Smokers has rubs that deliver results, trusted by competition pros, weekend grillers alike, the award-winning lineup like Sweet Money, Competition Brisket and Steak, Cash Cow, Cattle Prod. How about Desert Gold? How about Little Louis Seasoned Salt? How about this one? Because they brought it back because the fans love it. Cucaracha, a fiery kick that turns up the heat on any cook. BBQ Central Show listeners, this one's for you. Use promo code BBQ Central 25 all together. BBQ Central 25 at checkout for free ground shipping now through October 31st. We got a whole another month and change to go. Free ground shipping now through Halloween. BBQ Central, and then the numerals 25. Barbecue Central 25 for free ground ship. BigPapaSmokers.com. My favorite rubs of all time in all barbecue rub history. All right, we'll get an update from Meathead coming back. Stick around, we'll be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the BBQ Central Show.
Okay, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the BBQ Central Show sent you. Before we get to Meathead, I have to address this. David Yule. Wooster does not rhyme with rooster. Unfortunately, it's more like Worcester and always the college of, not Worcester College. David, do you live in Worcester? Do you live in Ohio? I live in Ohio. I live an hour away from Worcester. It's called Worcester. We don't have to argue about it. It's the college of or Worcester College. Who cares? It's a crappy Division III school. Take them. Beat it. It's Worcester. I know it's Worcester. I live here. I have friends that live in Worcester. I will confirm with Daniel Vaughn next week if it is Worcester or not. And by the way, David, if it's not Worcester, A, I've been saying it wrong for however the fuck long I've lived here in Ohio, number one. And number two, I will apologize on the show because I am the bigger man. My next guest has created the most heavily trafficked barbecue and grilling website ever in the universe. And we've not talked to him, if you can believe it, for 6 months. He's alive, and he's Meathead. Hey.
I believe it's Worcester.
Oh, you're thinking about Worcester, Mass.
That's possible.
I'm thinking about Worcester, Ohio.
I think your listener is correct.
Are you siding with a listener? Meathead, right off the bat.
We're off to a bad start, aren't we? Hello.
Man.
Hey,
all right. We're out of time, Meathead. I'm sorry. We'll catch you next time, and have a good night.
Speaking of bad starts, your newsletter today indicated I have only 20 minutes. I think there might be a typo there.
No, what are you talking about? It said
the newsletter said
10:14 and 10:35. So that's the start of each segment. So it'll be 2 segments.
Okay. Well, how are you? Long time no see. I'm glad to be back.
We have to get your thought on this.
Yes, I drink Bloody Marys.
YouTube
I love them.
Oh dear. All right.
But
40%.
But
Yes.
I don't drink the standard recipe. My Bloody Marys have smoked ice in them. They have barbecue rub around the rim. The stir stick is a rib. And the rest of the ingredients have a little creativity to them, as you might expect from yours truly.
Like what?
Well, I start with V8 instead of tomato juice. And I a lot of them use lemon. I prefer lime. And the barbecue rub around the rim, I throw some of that in the mix.
Yeah.
So there's it's a canvas. You can play with it. I like them.
What's going on with your look? You look, please.
I combed my hair for a change.
I'm not trying to be rude, but I mean, you look younger.
Not much chance of that. I combed my hair.
You do. I mean, you look nice.
Usually my hair is all a wreck. I combed my hair so I'd look good for you, and maybe some of the single ladies in the audience.
Yes. Hello, middle-aged ladies. If you're interested in a meathead, I got one right here on the west side of Chicago. Available for dates. So
No, I got my 51st anniversary next week.
51st. Wow. That's a
Mhm.
lot. I'm
Yeah.
coming up on, oh dear, meathead. 97, 8, 20, 28 years? Is that right? Yeah, I
Well,
think that's right. 28. We're in 5.
We're both
yeah.
pretty lucky to find someone who will put up our shenanigans, really.
No. I have a feeling I'm more of a delight than you are, too.
You probably are.
Yeah. All right, so let's get the business out of the way first, in case you didn't know this, because it's been a while. Meathead has a new book out.
Hallelujah.
There it is, the Meathead Method, and who cares about that? All the way at the bottom, there's a wonderful blurb by yours truly talking about what a great guy Meathead is and how great the book is, which of course it is. So
I'm grateful.
Let's start from the beginning. It's out. It is amongst hands of pretty much anybody that'll read a live fire cookbook, an educational book at this point, as we are now just in the beginnings of September of 2025, closing Q3 and opening Q4 next month. How do we know how well the book is doing at this point?
I don't know, but there are ways to find out. You can go to Amazon and look it up. There are some sales records there. There's also some comparison information there, but I don't obsess about it. I know it's a good book. I know that people are buying it because I hear from people about it. I don't know how many. I do know my last book. I haven't looked it up lately, but there's also auditing services out there. And my publisher sometimes shares that information. Well, I get that on my royalty statement. My royalty statement tells me how many copies have sold. The last book, the first book, Meathead, The Science of Great Barbecue and Grilling, has surpassed 250,000 copies, which most cookbooks, if you do 10 to 20, you're doing great. 250 is really quite unusual. Very happy. I don't know if this book will make it that far, but it's a good book and it's worth getting.
All right. So can you like readjust your microphone so it's pointed at your mouth? Looks like it's pointed down at the ground. Yeah. There we go.
I never have my microphone the way you want it.
What is it on, a spring?
It's on an arm.
Wow, look at that. I mean, you sound 100 times better just like that. Yeah, it's got to be pointed at your mouth. Otherwise, the microphone picks up the desk.
It's at my mouth. It's about an inch from my lips.
Yes, that's where I want it, right there. It sounds great. So, when do you know? So the last one was a New York Times bestseller, right?
Yes.
When do you know if you're a New York Times bestseller, or would you have already known by now?
I don't think New York Times is doing cookbook bestsellers anymore. I think they've changed their bestseller list program. And I think they dropped that after I became a bestseller on the last book. I don't know.
Michael Simon's new live fire cookbook just got New York Times bestseller when I had him on a couple months ago.
Who?
Michael Simon.
Oh, really? Well, then maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not one of these guys who obsessively checks how many people are following me on Facebook or Twitter. I don't check how many copies of the books have sold. When the royalty statements come in, it usually includes a sales figure, and I look at that. I'm a cook. I'm a photographer. I'm a writer. I own a small business. Those occupy my attention, and I don't obsess over numbers.
Let's ask the tough question.
I'm sorry.
We're going to ask the tough question right now.
Oh,
Are you ready? Apologies in advance. When's the third book coming out?
Oh. I don't know if there will be. I have enough material that didn't make it into this book.
This is the third book.
Yeah, and there's some good stuff there. But I don't know if I have the energy. It's a major. Well, I mean, you and I have talked about this. I don't know. For me, a lot of people can just sit down and throw together a bunch of recipes. But this book is a lot like the first book. The first half is a science book. The first half talks a lot about how we taste and smell things. It talks a lot about the nature of smoke. What is smoke? It talks about what is food, the components of food, and it's geeky as it was the last book. The second half of the recipes, and the recipes are good. And I upped my photography game, and the photographs are really nice. So whether I have it in me for a third book, I don't know. I'm 76 years old, and we've talked about so many things over your 16 years. We've talked about entrepreneurship. I'm a classic small business entrepreneur, which means I've been putting in 60-hour weeks for 40 years, and I'm ready to cut back to 20. And thank God I have Clint Cantwell and Dave Joachim and Max Good and Husky Lions and a team of really capable people around me who are really invested in the project, and they're carrying the ball, and I can entrust them with my baby, and that's the very cool feeling.
Does Max have a replacement? I mean, he's no spring chicken.
Max is, I think, in his 50s or 60s.
No
I don't
way.
know. I don't know.
I'm in my 50s.
Well, I don't. I told you I don't count. I don't know how old Max is, and I don't care.
So
I'm sure if Max ever retired and we advertised we're looking for somebody to test grills full time and make a decent living at it, we'd have no shortage of applicants.
No, the run will be on the email without a shadow of a doubt. So I didn't want you to write the second book, and you didn't want to write it. But I think now, because there is all of this, the other book is written. I think there's some cobbling. It could probably be more of an editor's project than anything else. And I have a title for it. Meathead, the best of the rest. It's the best.
No, I have
Great.
a title for it. It's a lot of it is personal opinion about and philosophy, and its working title is the Meathead Manifesto. But
even better.
The way you put a book together is you can. I've had a lot of people write for me over the years. You recall I had Wine Pup magazine many years ago. And I've coached a lot of writers, and the technique I teach is sit down at the keyboard and just barf up whatever comes to mind. Just throw it on the screen. Don't worry about editing it, polishing it, organizing it, cut and pasting. Get it all up. Once you get it all up, then you go back and you start to massage it and sculpt it. And that's very difficult because a book is different than a website. If you go to Google and you search for how do I cook brisket, it may take you to our website and you land on that page, and then there are links that take you over to the Texas Crutch. There's links that take you over to the Rub, links that take you over to Resting. It's hyperlinking. A book has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has to flow. It has to be organized. And doing that is the craft of writing a book. And that's what makes a good book. And that's what makes it easy to read and to learn from. And books are better for learning than websites. So that's a big, big project. And there's a chance I'll do it. There's a chance I won't. I don't know. I've got a lot of other things that I want to do with my life. I want to do more traveling. You may recall that I train puppies for the blind. I have a new puppy coming in 2 weeks. That's a lot of fun and very time consuming. There's this concept that I've been hearing about. It's called a vacation.
Have you went on a vacation?
I'm going to try a vacation this next.
Meathead, you've been saying you've been trying a vacation for like 2 years.
We're leaving on Friday. We're driving around Lake Michigan. We're going to circumnavigate Lake Michigan.
You're going to go try some of the best peaches in the world.
Oh God, Red Havens from Michigan are just unparalleled. Unfortunately, the season is done, but I'll get some cherry pie up in Door County. Even though the cherry season is over, the pies are frozen. They're fantastic. And there's a couple of really good old fish smokehouses around the lake still. And I plan to hit at least one of those and just, enjoy myself with my wife.
Well, you deserve it.
I'm gonna have fun. I haven't seen you in a while. When are you coming back?
Yeah.
The volleyball team is breaking up, isn't it?
That's been over for a good couple of
Yeah.
years. So I
Greg used to come to Chicago on occasion because his daughters played volleyball, and there were big championships and competitions, and we had some good meals together when the volleyball crew was going.
We might be coming up again mid-December for the Christmas bar pop-ups. We had such a great time last year. We're going to come back. In Wrigleyville, a bunch of those places turn into full-time Christmas bars, and we had such a great time. We had a long weekend there. We couldn't link up for whatever reason last year. I forget what the holdup was, but yeah, we had such a good time. We're bringing Bobby and her boyfriend and Maddie and her boyfriend. We're going to
How cool.
have a whole time.
I've had the pleasure of meeting both of them when they were young.
That's right. So I wanted to, we were talking about the third book. There was another question I was going to ask you, and now I'm not going to be able to remember it. So
why don't you ask me about Facebook?
Wait, I don't want to forget. Do you know something about Gold Bud peaches?
Gold Bud peaches?
Yeah.
I don't. I'm a peach aficionado. I just bought something called Autumn Joy, which is pretty nice. They're huge. They're the size of baseballs. But Red Havens, I really am a peach lover. I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm an aficionado. And I've had Georgia peaches. I've had North Carolina. South Carolina actually makes more than Georgia does, I believe. But most fruits do best in cold climate. That's why wine is best from cool climates. Because during the daytime, it's warm enough for them to get lots of sugar and ripen. But at night, it's cool, and so it doesn't burn off the sugar or the acidity, so they retain it. And you get this great sugar-acid balance. And the Red Havens from the lower half of Michigan are the best I've ever tasted. And I've had my fill this summer. They're just brilliant.
So according to Stephen Reichlin, there's something called a Gold Bud peach, which according to Google, it's in Placerville, California. I don't know. So it sounds
That's
like
Central Valley, I think.
They're getting probably planed into Martha's Vineyard. They're not indigenous there in Martha's Vineyard. And he said on this show, hold on to your hat, meathead, that these peaches cost $10 a piece.
Oh, my
and
God.
He's addicted to them. And I said, wow, it sounds like cocaine would be a less expensive habit.
What's the name again?
Gold Bud peaches. So I haven't done any further investigating other than I'm just taking Stephen for his word. And I immediately exclude myself from even considering a Gold Bud peaches. I couldn't possibly pay $10 for a peach.
I'm one of these loonies. I mean, I once paid a fortune for medjool dates from Morocco.
Oh, really?
Just the shipping alone was deadly. But when I hear of something that's supposed to be brilliant, I'll pay for it. I've got to try it. I've got to set my benchmark. I've got to know what the best is. So if I can find some, I'll order one tomorrow.
You got a line into Stephen Reichlin, I would imagine, right? You can connect with him immediately.
Yeah, we're both members of the Hall of Fame, and we've exchanged content for each other's websites, and
maybe touch base with him and say, hey, I was talking to Greg on the show. He had mentioned you talked about these Gold Bud peaches. Is that correct? And then he said you mentioned $10 a peach. Is that right? Make sure that I'm right, because I didn't. I was like, holy moly. And then if you get your hands on them, I couldn't possibly wait to get your review on a Gold Bud peach that might be somewhere between, $10, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. It's on the docket.
I'm on it.
All right. So let's talk about Meathead's new book, The Meathead Method.
Well, there's a lot of fun stuff in there. There are a lot of methods and techniques that are pretty standard barbecue methods. Had to talk about the Texas crutch and stuff. But I also brought in. All right, I got a couple of quiz questions out there.
All right.
For your audience, everybody listening in, if you love fried chicken, raise your hand.
Yeah.
Everybody's hands just went.
Everybody.
If you make fried chicken in your kitchen, raise your hand.
It's pretty much everybody.
No, because because everybody loves fried chicken, but you don't make it in your kitchen because it spatters all over the countertop. It sets off the smoke alarm. It gets on the floor. It's just a mess, and it's a pain in the butt to do. I teach you in this new book how to do fried chicken on your gas grill. You take it out and back. Take a Dutch oven, put about 2 inches of oil in there, put it on top of a burner, turn that burner on high, get the oil up to about 375, 350 in that range. Dredge your chicken, and in it goes. And who cares if it smokes? Who cares if it spatters? The Dutch oven is going to catch it all. It's not going to catch your grill on fire. You're not going to knock over a 10-pound Dutch oven. There's only 2 inches of oil in there, and God forbid you should. The worst that'll happen is you'll lose a $500 grill, not a $500,000 house.
Yeah, right.
If you knock over the frying pan in the kitchen. It's fantastic. You bring in hot fried chicken, not from Kentucky Fried, where you had to drive it 16 blocks to get home. It's just fantastic. Make fried, and you can experiment. You can try different kinds of dredges. You can try dry or wet. You can try cracker crumbs. You can try all kinds of fun stuff.
What's the best?
For me?
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I often just like to moisten the chicken with a little water on my hands and roll it around in flour once. Now, sometimes I'll do a dip into milk. You can use buttermilk, but just plain old milk or water will do, and go back into the flour twice to build a better coat. That's just really good, you know. It's not the big, thick, crackling, hard coat, but it's just delightful that way. You can use an egg wash in the center step. You go flour, egg, flour, or flour, egg, panko, or flour, egg, breadcrumbs, or flour, egg, Cheetos, or, you know. But there's a lot of ways to do it, and it's a lot of fun.
All right, so get the fried chicken out of the house and put it on the grill. Put it in the Dutch oven away. It's shallow fry, right?
Project.
Yeah, shallow fry.
Fried chicken's now barbecue.
And there's no worry that your grill's not going to get hot enough to get the oil hot enough?
Yeah. Oh, it gets the oil, the gas grill get it plenty hot.
Yeah.
And when it's done, you don't want to crowd the pot. You take it out and you put it over on the other side of the grill, the indirect side, and it stays warm over there and it drips. So it's fine. How about another one?
Wait, can you do it on a charcoal grill?
You can, but it's a little easier to control the temp on a gas grill.
All right.
You want that temp in the 350 to 375 range for almost all deep frying. So even if you're doing fried zucchini or green onions or onions, onion rings, or green tomatoes, my wife just brought in a bunch of green tomatoes. We'll do them this week. Take it outside.
All right. What else?
Okay. Now the quiz. Who loves Chinese food? Everybody raise your hand. Yeah.
I love MSG.
Yeah. Everybody loves Chinese food. And you make it at home. People do make Chinese food. And it turns out pretty good.
No. Nobody makes Chinese food at home, meathead. Zero people. No way.
I've done hey Greg, I've done this quiz in front of live audiences. The hands go up.
They're lying.
It's easy to do in a frying pan, but it's not as good as coming out of your neighborhood Chinese joint.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why. If you've ever set foot in one of their kitchens or seen a video of their kitchen, they're cooking with a wok on top of a volcano.
Yeah.
That gas burner is amazingly hot. Well, that when you do your stir fry on your stovetop at home, what happens is if you throw the meat into the oil, the juices come out.
Yeah.
And essentially, you're not frying anymore, you're braising. The end result is delicious because you've got all the right ingredients. You've got the hoisin, the sesame oil. They taste right. But it's not quite like the Chinese restaurant because you haven't really deep fried or stir fried that meat. So how do you get around this? Well, I was out at the grill one day getting ready to grill some steaks, and I start my charcoal grill, my Weber kettle, with a charcoal chimney. And it was around dusk, and I lit the charcoal chimney, and I come out and I look at it, and there's this blue flame coming out of the top of the charcoal chimney. You can really see it clearly at dusk. and it looks like the back end of an F-35. So I take my wok and I set it on top there, and I use an infrared thermometer, and it's like 900 degrees. It's amazing. Wow. So I have been doing my Chinese stir fry on top of the charcoal chimney. You don't even have to fill it all the way. Halfway is usually enough. There's one trick that I describe in the book, and that's important. If you put a wok on top of a charcoal chimney, in short order, the combustion gases will build up under the wok and on top of the charcoal and extinguish the charcoal. Oh. You've got to get oxygen in and combustion gases out. So just drill a few holes in just below the lip of the charcoal chimney. That will let the combustion gases out and oxygen in, and away you go.
The holes in the charcoal chimney aren't enough?
Yeah, you got a charcoal chimney.
Yeah.
There are holes, but they're usually, depending on the model, the Weber model, there are slits in the bottom.
Yeah.
But there's nothing really above the charcoal. So you just, right below the top lip, you drill a few holes. I actually took a tin snips and I cut a couple of gouges in there. You just got to let the gases out and the oxygen in.
Huh.
Fantastic. Much better than anything on the stovetop, as good as a Chinese restaurant.
Where am I getting a wok at?
Oh, gosh, they're all over. Your cooking supply stores, you know who I got a really nice wok that's relatively nonstick from Milk Street. They have a catalog online. Milk Street, I forget the exact address, but it's a really nice wok, and you get a special wok handle, and there are tons of Chinese recipe cookbooks out there.
So when you put your charcoal chimney, you're putting it on the kettle, like the kettle grill, and then away you go. You stick the wok on it, heat the oil up, and then start making your stir fry just like that.
You know, the trick to Chinese cooking is mise en place. That is, be ready. You got to get a tray, and you got to have the eggs, you got to have the sesame oil, you got to have the scallions, the onions, the meat, and you got to have them all prepped. Everything gets chopped and prepped and put it in its own bowl. Because once you've got that oil going, in goes the meat, in goes the eggs, in goes the scallions and the onions and the mushrooms, and you're moving quick because it's really hot. And then finally my book does have a really good a fried rice recipe that is pretty easy. It's a beef fried rice for wok on top of charcoal chimney.
Give me one other treat in this. Wait. I think I bookmarked it. As I was.
You actually read some of it?
I know. Believe it or not. This caught my eye. I said, well, for as many great pictures, as many great recipes, as many great anecdotes and science and all this other nonsense, this is the one. This is, if for no other reason you bought this book, this is the most important thing. On page 66, why smoke gets in your eyes.
Oh.
You think you're the most unlucky bastard around a fire, but really there's something to it.
Yes. You're off center. There it is. Well, you know this when you start grilling, and the smoke is going up, and then it starts blowing in your eyes. And you walk around to the other side, and it follows you, and it's blowing in your eyes. And I realized that this is not just something weird. There's got to be a reason for this. So I went to my physicist, Dr. Greg Blonder. He teaches at Boston University, and he's been my science consultant for years. And he had the explanation. He says the same phenomenon if you look at pilings in a pier. And you can see how the water hits the pilings and wraps around and creates this vortex on the backside. Same thing's happening. You are like the piling, and you create a vortex, and the smoke is drawn to the vortex. And so it's not just your imagination. When you walk around the grill, the smoke is following you.
So you should stay still. You should suffer through it.
It's still going to follow you because there's a vortex behind you.
No matter what. Wow. Yeah, I read that thing. I was like, wow. I'm like, this is a complete game changer, and this is exactly what we're getting this book for. So you can get the little nuance, realize that you're just not an unlucky punk.
A lot of science you can't live without. Like,
no.
Why do you have smoke in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean that's crazy. So, one or two other things that you like about this book that you want to mention?
We've talked about this before, but to a lot of people, it's still new. The idea of combining sous vide and barbecue or grilling. And I've gotten into it. I just did a seminar at Weber with the Sous Vide Association, and was really fun. We did brisket at 3 different temperatures, and I did one at 131, which is medium rare. 48 hours in sous vide at 131. It came out rosy, just like a medium rare steak, but for 48 hours in the sous vide, and then it went into the smoker. It was just as tender and juicy as a steak. But it was rosy color, and yet it was brisket. Unbelievable. Absolutely fascinating. We did one at 155. That was very nice. And one at 175. And then one we did the usual way up around 203 or so. They were all wonderful, but I was absolutely delighted with the 131.
So you're putting that in raw into the bag.
Yeah,
and then
sous vide,
doing 48
just in case
hours.
Somebody out there doesn't know how it works. You have a Ziploc bag, and you put the meat in the Ziploc bag, and you slip it into the water until all the air comes out of the bag, so that the plastic is right up against the meat. And you set it in a water bath. Set the temperature. There's a heating element set for 131. And it sits there for 48 hours.
Yikes.
And at that temperature, it will kill all bacteria. It takes a long time at 131 to kill all bacteria, but you do it. And it's just remarkable.
How do you come up with 48 hours?
Experimenting. I've done several. 48, it takes a long time. You've got to break down those connective tissues. You got to turn them to gelatin. It's just a lot of fun.
So then it comes out of the bag, and then you season it, and then you put it on the smoker?
Yep. Yeah.
For how long?
You salt it before it goes in the bag.
Yeah, of course.
And then when it comes out, you put your rub on it and throw it in the smoker at a low temperature. It doesn't take long, an hour to pick up smoke flavor. It looks and tastes like brisket.
All right, let me get your take on this. I had months ago, if I asked you this, and I forgot that I asked you, just stop me. I had the guy that owns Grill Blazer. You familiar? It's the propane charcoal starter thing. So he makes the one that starts a charcoal grill, and then he makes the smaller version. It's called the sous vide gun.
Yeah.
And it's made specifically certain ways so like the raw propane doesn't drip out of the gun and get on your steak, whatever, cause off taste, whatever. His thing is this. Raw meat, fire up the sous vide gun, boom. Sear the raw steak up front. Get it all seared up, and then into the sous vide bag, and then hour per inch of steak in thickness, put it in that way, and it greatly reduces the purge that you find otherwise doing it in reverse order. Do you agree with that?
I've played with the before and after sear. And I have not measured the purge. I'm probably going to be doing that kind of experiment coming up soon. The Sous Vide Association is having a conference, and I've suggested we do this kind of thing for the conference. So, but my experience with searing before the bag is that a lot of the compounds that are in the sear do come out in the purge. Sous vide makes very tender, very juicy meat, but it is not a magical searing method. There's a lot of liquid in the bag when you're done.
Yeah.
A lot of purge. I prefer to sear it afterwards because the Maillard reaction, the sear and the crust are very important parts of the taste for me. So maybe he's searing before and after. I don't know.
No. He's got a whole video on it. He uses the gun up front.
Right off the bat, I want crust. I want the surface dry and sizzling and crust. So I would sear it again after. And people who follow me may know, and we talk about it in the book, I like to sear on top of a charcoal chimney. Those charcoal chimneys, man, they put out a lot of heat. I just put a rack from my Weber kettle on top of the charcoal chimney, and take the steak and throw it on top of the charcoal chimney. And there's some famous pictures of me doing it with 3 charcoal chimneys floating around out there. So there's another fun thing that I play with in this book, and that's koji. And you and I have had some great experience with koji. There's a deli not far from you. Oh, God, help me. I'm
Larder Delicatessen on West 29th Street, Jeremy Umansky, proprietor.
Right. And he uses koji on so many things. Now, he does it the hard way. He does it from the beginning, but there's a shortcut that works pretty darn well that I describe in the book. I describe all 3, but I get deep into the simpler method. That's the method I recommend in the book, and that is starting with liquid koji rather than starting with rice and adding the koji is a mold. Koji is a mold, and don't freak out. I mean, mold is in a lot of your foods. You know, it's in blue cheese. Yeast is used in making wine and beer. And koji is used to make soy sauce, and a lot of Asian foods use koji. And it starts with rice and these mold spores, and you can get just a bottle of the liquid that comes out of this process. And if you throw a chicken breast or a steak in there, just for half an hour to an hour, it really amps up the umami. Now, it will change the flavor slightly. Some people don't like it at all. Some people like it a lot. Greg and I went to the deli, Jerry Mansky's deli, and Jerry wrote a book on koji, by the way, and he probably knows more about it than anybody. And we had, what did we have, Greg? We had pastrami.
What didn't we have?
Yeah, right.
Everything had some form of koji or some amount of koji on it, and the ones that were held longer. I mean, there were vast flavor differences going across that meat board, the likes that you probably don't get in a lot of places.
Better than others.
Sure.
But think of it as just another way of flavoring food. So I talk about koji in the new book. Here's one that's interesting. Everybody says when you put a burger on a grill, don't smash it. Now, I'm not talking about a griddle. I'm not talking about smash burgers. I'm talking about, 6 to 8 ounce pub burger or a steakhouse burger. You throw it on a charcoal or a gas grill with flame. They all tell you don't smash it. But doggone it, there have been a few burger joints that I've been to whose burgers are better than mine, and it pissed me off, and I couldn't figure out why. And so I hang around and I get them to let me in the kitchen. And I noticed that oftentimes they were using their spatula to smush the burger. Now, I'm not calling it smash, it's smush. I don't want people thinking I'm talking about smash burgers. And what happens is the juices, the fat, the liquid, and the juices that have rub on it drip down and they hit the fire, and they vaporize, and they come back up, and they strike the meat and land on the meat and add flavor compounds to the meat. And, I'm thinking about this, and I go home and I decide to try it. And sure enough, if I smush that burger, you can't do it right away. You got to wait for the juices to flow inside the burger. But if you smush the burger, it definitely improves the flavor. The problem is you end up with a hockey puck. You're squeezing out all the juices. You're squeezing out the fat and the liquid. Well, the solution is obvious. You don't have to be a scientist to figure this one out. Instead of an 80-20 burger, I moved to a 70-30 burger. That is 70% lean, 30% fat. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of fat, but look, burgers are not diet food, and you're not going to eat them every night of your life. If you're going to do a burger, do a good burger. If you go to a 70-30 patty, 6 to 8 ounces, and you throw it on the grill and let it warm up, and maybe wait till you flip it, or get it warmed up enough so that you gently smush. You don't want to, you don't want to strain it through the grates. You gently smush so that the juices come out and you see flame. That is the goal, and that adds flavor, and it's pretty nice. It really does help a burger.
I don't know if I've ever seen 70-30 beef in a grocery store.
No, you got to ask for it. You got to ask for it. No, most ground meat is, well, first of all, if they call it hamburger or ground beef, it's usually 90-10. So you got to ask for it, or you got to make it yourself, which is, hey, all the best burger joints grind their own burgers. So you go down and you get yourself a piece of chuck, which is usually around 80-20. And the next time you do a brisket, you trim off the fat and you save it, you freeze it. And now you blend it in. And I've got a calculator on the website, because it's not as simple as you might think to calculate how to get to 70-30. But I've got a calculator on AmazingRibs.com where you can calculate how much fat to add to a burger to get it up to 70-30 or whatever you want.
Yeah.
So that's what you do with the trimmings off your brisket.
Well, I'm going to be trying that next time. Smoosh burger, although I've become a huge fan of smash burger as well.
Me too.
Let me ask you. Let me get your take on this.
I got to ask you.
Yeah.
You do the Oklahoma style smash burger with the
onions?
onions?
Hell no. Onions are terrible, meathead. I hate onions. They're the worst. You know that.
You just don't like onions at all?
No, zero.
Oh.
Ugh. No.
I love them.
I'll do Oklahoma burger sans the Oklahoma part and just do the burger. And then it's cheese. And they're 3-ounce 80-20 balls. And then smash down. You know how it is. Get the lattice thing working, blah, blah, blah. So standard stuff. I was late to the game on smash burgers. I didn't understand the hype. I didn't have a griddle. And then I got a griddle, and then I tried smash burgers, and it wasn't even the first thing I tried. It was like, by the way, I should probably try this after I saw it on Instagram a couple more times. And then I fell deeply in love. I don't believe there's any better burger than a smash burger, especially mine.
Really?
That are coming. Yes. I mean, we love
you double-decker?
Yeah. Sometimes triple chi, believe it or not. Yeah.
Woo.
If we're throwing caution to the wind, we'll go triple chi. So
for those who don't know, the onion, the Oklahoma version is you thin slice onion and you throw it down on the griddle and you put the burger on top.
Yeah.
And so that as the onion sautés, it flavors the burger. And it's a fun technique, and it gives, if you like onions, it gives it it's a different twist. You're only going to get Maillard on one side. You get a little Maillard on the other side, but the onion flavor is nice.
I was listening to a Instagram reel 2 days ago. I made a point to ask you about this as we wrap up here. So this is obviously either a owner of a restaurant or a executive chef of a restaurant. He's doing a training, and they're talking specifically about when we cook a steak, when we put it on the table. If somebody is biting in, they're probably taking a piece, from the left or from the right. People aren't just typically diving into the middle of the steak, right? So guilty as charged last night when I was at a steakhouse for a business dinner. So started from one side or the other instead of going into the middle. So you take a bite. You go, this steak is overdone. So this guy says, okay, you go to the table. You say, let's make sure that that steak is cooked to whatever temperature you ordered. Please cut down the middle of the steak. Then you look at the steak. You say, okay, this is our medium rare. Let's say whatever that color is. I can still fix it. I can bring it back if you want me to. I want to do what you want to do, but this is how it's supposed to look for us. Do you want to take a taste? I can do a couple laps. I'll come back around, see if you like it. Whatever. 9 times out of 10, the customer says, yeah, it's great, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that. What I care about, and what I had commented on and got reaction to, was I said, hey, are you going off of color? Because medium rare has a temperature, not a color. It has a temperature. And he said 99% of the people look for color, don't know anything about the temperature, not even going to bring it up to them, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, this is a travesty. Likewise, when I had my lamb at dinner on last Tuesday, it was like a half a degree away from me sending it back. It was almost too underdone. I ordered medium rare lamb, rack of lamb. I mean, it was rare at best and almost too rare for me, which is hard to do for me. And I almost sent it back. And I'm like, you see how thick it is? You know how hot your cooker is. Why don't you stick a thermometer in that son of a bitch just to make sure it's 130 degrees? Yes.
How many chefs? I mean, and I see a lot of chefs have a meat thermometer in their coat pocket.
It must be for show.
It is. I mean, really. And I specify if I'm ordering steak or lamb, I'll specify. Say I want 130 to 135, medium rare, and I'll specify a number. But that's a really interesting point I never thought about, because you are cutting from the edge. And the edge is going to be more cooked than the center, because heat is entering it from above, below, and the edges.
Yeah.
So it's going to cook the edges more. So if you cut off an edge slice, you ordered medium rare, that edge slice might be closer to medium. That's an issue for some. And he's smart. Show him in the center. But I don't know why they don't use thermometers more often, except for the fact they're cooking the same steak from the same supplier over the same oven every night. By this time, they know how long and at what temperature and color. There's a certain degree of craft and artistry involved. But I gotta jump in, because on this steak issue, there, as you may recall, we've talked for years about this business about resting meat, and I have always maintained that I don't understand why. I've never seen science to prove that resting meat is important, but every chef who's ever put on a white toque says you got to rest the meat.
Yeah.
And I don't get it, and I don't bother. I figure by the time you bring it in from the grill and put it on the table, it's rested enough, and yada yada yada. And I've written at length about all of this stuff. You want it sizzling because saliva adds to the moisture experience, and yada yada. Well, since that, in the past year, Chris Young, whom I know has been a guest on your show often, and
love him.
We both respect, is a genuine food scientist who builds a magnificent thermometer, the combustion thermometer, and he's done some really great food science videos. He now agrees with me and gives me credit for that you really don't need to rest meat. There's no evidence that the juices redistribute or any of that business. And just about 2 weeks ago, Dan Gritzer from Serious Eats. And Serious Eats, if you're not familiar with it out there, folks, it's a brilliant culinary website with great, and Dan is a real, he's not a food scientist per se, but he's a geek. And he has run tests, and he now agrees with me. So we're slowly convincing people that you don't have to. Now, I do differentiate between resting and holding. Now, if you're doing a brisket, which you cook up to 200 degrees, that's different than a steak, which you're cooking to 130.
Yeah.
Very different. And most people, when they talk about resting, they're talking about steak or turkey or pork chops or something, briskets and pulled pork. I call that holding. And essentially that's taking advantage of carryover cooking. But in any case, I say when you got hot steaks or a hot pork chop, serve it.
Let's go. The new book is called The Meathead Method. For those of us that don't have it, which is probably very far and few between with this crowd, you should be going anywhere where you can get a book, and it will be there. We hope to see it on a New York Times. I hope to see it on a New York Times bestsellers. Meathead could care less. And he just wants big royalty checks, which I really only care about, too, if I was him. So, Meathead, appreciate the insight into the book, answering some of my questions, and we'll see you again in a couple months.
Yeah, always great to see you, Greg, and thanks a lot, and good to talk to you guys, Central Heights.
All right, there he is, Meathead. Doing it extra late for me, too, by the way, which I appreciate. Gave him a little time, but in order to do the extra time, we had to wait an hour because he's usually 9:14, as you've come to know and love him. So there you go. We are at the end of the show. All the way back in the first hour, it was Heath Bennett, the creator of the BBQ Central Show's theme song, Get in the Smoke. Learned all about that. Then, Robert Moss told us all about pork ribs and how they were the bastard of barbecue meat and meat in general for long periods of time. So much so, and there were so many ribs that nobody wanted, they were getting dumped into the Ohio River. Say it ain't so. What's going on, Cincinnati? You know better than that. And then all second hour, all Meathead, AmazingRibs.com, and The Meathead Method, which is the new book, now out a number of months, doing very well, according to Meathead. Big show planned for you next week. It is the third Tuesday, so we will have a rescheduled Mike Lang at 10:14. I feel like we have a 9:14 that I just booked as well. Oh, we will bring a close to the Matt Osmond, Sam the Cooking Guy, $2,000 bet that Matt has been welching on. That's all will culminate at 9:14 next Tuesday. So you don't want to miss that. Also, we have Wes Wright. Also, we have Mike Lang. Also, we have Daniel Vaughn. Stacked show next week. So, how do I always leave you? In 2 days, September 11th, 2001. 24 years removed. I know I don't do a huge bit on it anymore like I used to, but I don't forget why I close the show with it each and every week. September 11th, 2001, I will never forget. And until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe, saying, Shalom!